Searchers have located fragments of an Air France jetliner that crashed in the Atlantic Ocean 22 months ago. The plane was on a flight from Brazil to France, and 228 people died in the disaster, and the debris field was located deep in the ocean off Brazil's northeastern coast. And it was located by a team from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution. Now we go back to the Summit at the Sea conference in Miami, where Cris Valerio is standing by with Dave Gallo. He's the director of special projects at Woods Hole. Cris?
Thank you, Pimm. Well, Dave, let's just dig right into this. I mean, this took a really long time to find. You guys were actually commissioned, I guess, by Air France and Airbus.
That's right.
How does the communication work with them, and how did this discovery come about?
Well, it goes to the BEA, which is the French equivalent to the NTSB. They're in charge of the investigation, and they're the ones that we dealt with in the very beginning. And what we had to prove was that we had the technology and the track record to be able to do this, because we're talking about the confidence of the French people, of the Brazilian people, of the air industry. So it was no easy task, but fortunately they had that kind of confidence in us.
How much does it cost to go about this kind of search? I mean, we see these disasters happen, every now and then. Stuff like, for instance, what's happening in Japan right now, natural disasters and also disasters of actual companies. How much do searches like this cost?
Well, typically to be out at sea, it's millions of dollars a month, depending on what you're doing. It's not always that, but if you're working in the deep ocean, it's pretty expensive. So it can, in the case of this recent phase, we were prepared to go 3 months, which would have been about 10 million US, something in that vicinity.
And that is fully funded by the companies that have...
In this case, yeah, BEA was the investigative agency, but Airbus and Air France both shared the cost.
And so what is the consequence, I guess, once you find something like this, and once you are able to discover the details of the crash, what's the consequence on these types of companies?
Well, I think in that case it was huge, right? Because we're talking about the safety of the flying public. You're talking about the aircraft industry itself, the families of the victims. And, there was no way to know what happened to that plane. It was right in the middle of the ocean. And unless we found it and find those flight recorders, which we're still looking for, they have no idea whatever happened to that plane. So when you think of it in that terms, it's pretty important that we did this.
Talk a little bit about, obviously, foundations. For instance, we were just talking to Peter, and the company that you work for, the foundation that you work for, they do these types of exploration. They incentivize innovation in these types of kind of far-reaching searches. Do you feel that the private sector is addressing it as well, the venture capital money, the private equity money?
Not so much at Woods Hole. Most of our money comes from federal grants and contracts, although we've got a sizable philanthropic piece that's growing. It's so very important to us because it provides flexibility. We haven't seen the big corporate step up yet, but I'm hoping that happens because so much has to do with the deep ocean.
You've seen so many innovators here at this event. You have a lot of what we'll call the old school innovators like Richard Branson and Russell Simmons. You have a lot of the new guys coming up and women. How do you see the next generation of entrepreneurs playing into this type of exploration?
The energy here has been amazing, and what I see them is stepping up and wanting to help and wanting to find ways that we can help. So I think it's very important. Not only the social media to get the message out, but they're seeing this incredible opportunity because we've pretty much ignored the oceans and the importance of the oceans for so long. And these young people seem to get it. How much industry do you think can actually come from harnessing? It's most of the planet. It's 70% of the surface of the planet. And you think of the things that are their power. It's the air we breathe, the food we eat, the water we drink.
Do you guys do measurements, though, on how much do you think that could be worth?
We need to do better at that. We need to get that message across because I think still we take the oceans for granted. And look at a city like Miami built right on the ocean. So there's a lot to be gained by understanding how to work with the sea.
Dave Gallo, Director of Special Projects from the Woods Hole Oceanographic Institute. Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it. And Pimm, with that, back to you.
Thank you very much. Cris Valerio reporting from the Summit of the Sea taking place in Miami.